America's story is often told as a tale of factories, railroads, and brilliant inventors, but imagine another version, one whispered in back rooms and trading floors. In this version, a future president stands in a golden ballroom and hints that the money in your pocket is about to be rewritten. He speaks of real money, of a past built on gold, and of a coming change almost no one is prepared for. In March 2023, and again in 2024, Donald Trump spoke of restoring sound money, of a dollar backed by something tangible, something ancient and shimmering. Critics dismissed it as campaign theater, but in private, the people surrounding him were not treating it like a slogan. Judy Shelton, who had written entire books on reviving gold-backed currency. Robert Lighthizer, convinced the current system empowers China. Steve Bannon, calling for economic nationalism rooted in real assets. Slowly, a date began to surface, 2027. In this narrative, 2027 is not just another year, it is the hinge of a century. A moment when a failing monetary system reaches its breaking point. What Trump's circle envisions is not a minor adjustment, but a reset, a revaluation that could multiply gold's price tenfold, erase debt through devaluation, and shift global power from paper holders to gold holders. To understand why, you must first understand that currencies, like empires, have life cycles. From 1879 to 1933, the United States lived under a classical gold standard. Every paper dollar was a claim on metal stored in vaults. If you held a $20 bill, you could exchange it for almost exactly 1 ounce of gold. Governments were chained to discipline, unable to print more money than they had gold to support. Inflation was constrained not by policy, but by physics. But the Great Depression shattered the old world. Banks failed, unemployment soared, and President Franklin Roosevelt faced an impossible dilemma: stimulate the economy or obey the golden chain. On April 5, 1933, he chose stimulus. Executive Order 6102 made private gold ownership illegal and required citizens to surrender their coins and bars. Once the gold was collected, the government raised its price from $20.67 to $35 per ounce, an overnight wealth shift from citizens to the state. After World War II, a new system emerged, Bretton Woods. The dollar became the center of global finance, the currency to which others were tied. Foreign governments could redeem their dollars for gold, but ordinary Americans could not. This made the dollar the world's anchor, powerful, trusted, indispensable, but also vulnerable to overuse. By the late 1960s, the United States was printing more dollars than it had gold to back. Foreign nations noticed. France demanded conversions and sent a warship to bring the gold home. Other nations followed. The drain became unsustainable. In 1971, President Richard Nixon appeared on television and severed the link entirely, transforming the dollar into pure fiat-backed only by trust. That decision lit the fuse on a new era. Without gold's restraint, the U.S. money supply expanded over 3,000%. Prices rose, savings eroded, and the dollar lost 98% of its purchasing power. But here lies the hidden truth. The gold standard wasn't abandoned because it failed. It was abandoned because it prevented governments from spending beyond their means. Today, the dollar's global rule depends on 3 pillars: its reserve currency status, oil being priced in dollars, and the enforcement power of the U.S. military. All 3 pillars are showing cracks. When the U.S. froze hundreds of billions in Russian dollar reserves in 2022, many nations realized their savings were not truly safe. The petrodollar system, the 50-year marriage between oil and the U.S. dollar, is loosening. Saudi Arabia experiments with yuan transactions, joins global alliances like BRICS, and quietly prepares for a world where the dollar is no longer the sole language of energy markets. New trade systems rise that bypass the dollar entirely. Meanwhile, the numbers inside America grow darker. Federal debt surpasses $36 trillion and marches toward $40 trillion. Interest payments consume nearly as much as military spending. For the first time, the U.S. borrows money just to pay the interest on money it already borrowed. This is not a cycle, it is a spiral. Central banks see the writing on the wall. They begin purchasing gold at the fastest rate in 5 decades. China, Russia, Turkey, India, Singapore. They accumulate metal with quiet urgency. Official numbers suggest thousands of tons. Unofficial numbers suggest far more. Something is shifting beneath the global financial system. It is into this moment that Trump's idea emerges, not simply a return to gold, but a preemptive strike. His advisors study Roosevelt's 1933 blueprint, not for curiosity, but for instruction. Declare an emergency, change the rules. Recast the dollar in gold before China unveils its own gold-backed alternative. The first step is narrative. A televised address to the nation declares that hostile powers are preparing a gold-backed currency to dethrone the dollar. The only patriotic response is to strike first. Under existing emergency laws, the president can take sweeping action without waiting for Congress. The second step is control over gold. Not necessarily full confiscation, but limits. Citizens may keep small personal holdings, perhaps 5 ounces, but must surrender anything above that amount at the official rate. It is framed not as punishment, but as stabilization. The third step is the true reset, revaluation. Gold is repriced upward, not slowly but instantly. From $2,000 per ounce to $10,000, $15,000, or even $20,000, the amount of gold in vaults stays the same, but its declared value surges. Overnight, the government's balance sheet transforms. This is where the wealth transfer begins. Those who held gold see sudden life-changing gains. Those who held dollars suffer an invisible tax. The value of their savings collapses as the dollar is redefined. It is not called default, but in effect, it functions as one. For the government, the math suddenly works. A $36 trillion debt becomes manageable when the currency used to repay it has been devalued. Creditors receive the nominal amount they were promised, but in money worth far less. After the reset, a new gold-backed dollar is introduced. Redemption is restricted. Only foreign governments can request conversion under controlled conditions. It resembles Bretton Woods reborn, but with stricter rules and greater American control. Winners emerge quickly. Gold holders, gold miners, nations with large reserves, and anyone owning real assets, homes, land, businesses, their wealth inflates upward. Their debt, especially if fixed rate, evaporates in real terms. But many lose everything. Savers with cash accounts, retirees with bond-heavy portfolios, pension funds dependent on fixed income, they see their financial security dissolve. The middle class, which spent decades saving in dollars, finds those dollars diminished. Globally, the reset becomes a monetary earthquake. Nations split into 2 spheres, those who adopt the new U.S. gold-backed system, and those who follow a BRICS alternative. Trade routes shift. Alliances harden. The world enters a new era of cold economic war. And in the darkest version of this tale, the reset itself becomes a trap. Once trust in a gold-backed dollar is restored worldwide, the U.S. could one day suspend convertibility again, just as Nixon did in 1971. Whether or not that twist arrives, the reset marks a turning point. And so the story returns to you. If 2027 becomes the year where cycles converge, debt, geopolitics, ambition, and necessity, then the world will not glide forward quietly. It will reset. Some will rise, some will fall. And the difference, as always, lies in seeing the pattern before it arrives.